Welcome to the show. You're listening to the Broader Perspective Show, part of the Beatbox. I'm your host, DJ Fusion, here with Jody.
Hello. Not too bad. How are you?
Good, man. So, how's your day?
It's been pretty good. I had school, studying music theory.
Excellent.
Yeah, it's quite fun. Doing piano.
Yeah, you're also in a band, hey?
Yeah, Endless Couch.
Endless Couch. And what do you guys play?
Oh, we play rock and roll just like they did in the 60s and 70s.
Excellent. Cool.
Oh, yeah.
So, why are you on the show tonight?
Well, I just wanted to come over and talk about a little bit about what I think. Oh, that was a horrible way to put it. I just want to tell you about my sort of views on...
Philosophy.
Philosophy, yeah. The life and death and, the what and the why.
Fair enough. And in no way does the Beatbox have any say in this. This is just simply his opinion, like everyone else is entitled to theirs.
Exactly.
Exactly. So, enjoy.
Thank you. So he's leaving us now, so it's time to have some intimate time between you and me. What we're going to talk about is my personal opinions on life, death, what consciousness is in a more scientific sense than a philosophical sense, but pulling the two together. First off, one thing that we want to understand is that consciousness varies from everyone. You're sitting here listening to what I have to say, and the way that your ear is shaped is going to change how you hear it in the ever so slightest compared to how the person next to you is listening to it. So, consciousness is perception, and perception is relative to the observer of this perception. That's a very important thing to understand. So nothing can really be said on an absolute. There is no absolute, unbiased way to look at anything, because you will always be looking at it with your perceptions biased, and therefore there can be no real observer who is able to look at anything in an unbiased way. In a sense, that cuts God out of an equation, but I'll get to that later, because I still do have some reservations with him, or it, or whatever you want to call her, she. The universe would probably be a she. You are a living organism, and you are made up of cells, which are also living organisms. And when you want to consider what a living organism is, just think about yourself and how personal consciousness is to you, and how personal experience is to you. And then think about 10 billion or million or however so cells in your body. Think about how personal consciousness is to them, and how they are only living their lives like you are living yours. And on this parallel living of lives, they are creating you. Your consciousness is created by 1,000 or 1 billion or however many cells in your body living at the same time. There is no unit in your body that holds your consciousness. Your consciousness is an ever-changing state of every single part of your body and your environment around you. Your environment also shapes your consciousness and how you perceive things. As everything experiences its own consciousness, we must come to wonder, where does consciousness begin? I want you to go back to your earliest memory. Probably when you were 4, maybe 3 years old. If you have a video footage of you when you were younger, possibly when you were a baby, maybe even on the day you were born. But that doesn't count as your own memory. That counts as a memory that you preserved. You don't actually remember that day, technically speaking. You were conscious then. You were you, whatever you is. You were experiencing like you're experiencing now. So that's safe to assume that when you're in your mother's womb, more than likely you were experiencing things there. And then I'm not trying to get into controversial stuff here. I'm just trying to say it as it is, so anyone who wants to start yelling at me for any sort of ridiculous sexual innuendos here, I don't know, I'm just putting it out there because they're, crazy people. But, I'll just get on with my point. When you were your dad's sperm, you were still conscious. You were still a living thing before the egg was fertilized. You were still experiencing what you were experiencing. But then what before that? When the sperm splits into two, or when the sperm multiplies, it splits into two. So were you that sperm before it split, or were you created right when it happened? Or does that mean that sperm died, but it created life? And this is where science and philosophy sort of need to meld together, and in order to understand these sorts of implications that technical mathematics may not be able to completely get across without the help of words. Or, well, words are a curse and a blessing, but so is mathematics. I don't know my math well, but on the point of that, if we can't find the beginning of consciousness, then certainly we can't find the end of it and simply say that when you die, consciousness ceases. Surely there must be some sort of an afterlife. I believe it was Socrates, no, it was Plato, but he was writing as Socrates, who argued this point about the argument of opposites. And he said that, big comes from small, and small comes from big. And sleeping comes from waking, and waking from sleeping. So, what is the opposite of life? Death. What is the opposite of death? Life. So, what we conclude from this argument of opposites, and looking at death and life, we must surely be able to understand that there would be something afterwards. Now, I personally believe in reincarnation. I don't believe it in the sense of karma, however. I believe that we are essentially waveforms. Like, it's very difficult to put it. Consciousness is one unity, and it travels through different points of the universe and space and time, and experiences whatever that thing experiences. And then when you die, of course, you move on to whatever's next, if that makes sense. I'll get into the detail with that a little bit later.
Well, so my question to you, Jody, is how do you feel about the idea of life after death? In the fact that maybe you are one soul and a different entity than maybe another source of life. For an example, maybe in the terms of being a plant, or being an ant, or being a eagle that actually has a mind that can process, or maybe being like a whale or a dolphin that you actually communicate and work together as groups, in comparison to maybe a beetle or a centipede, or like some sort of insect that doesn't really process their day. It's just eat, sleep, die, sort of work as, you're kind of programmed. So in that sense, are you saying...
I'm going to say that humans work as they are programmed. For one, we are programmable creatures. it is very easy to see and study this if you're self-aware of it. But even if you're self-aware, you're programming yourself to be a certain way. Programming is a good thing. Programming is a very good thing. The eagle that has common sense is also programmed to be that way. Brain chemistry, brain structure is what creates your way of consciousness, and the way you perceive the world and the way you act in your environment. And if he wasn't leaving, I could probably stay on this better, but then I get nervous. Sorry. But as I said earlier about how you have a parallel life system living within you as cells, let's move on to something bigger. If you have a parallel life system inside of you that lives its own life by its own perception, and coincidentally or consequently creates you, then all of us living our daily lives, would that create a higher consciousness? Now, that question can be taken back to what James had asked, as in, what do I think happens to beings who die? I believe that all beings are conscious in their way that their brains and their bodies are programmed them to be around their environment, and therefore they will live the way that they are programmed to be, including us. And then when they die, I believe that we are one unified soul and will live as everything throughout the whole thing. But back to what I was saying about getting bigger, in my idea with the small cells and then us living our daily lives, making something bigger. A city has been mathematically calculated to be alive. We are the cells in its body, and as neurons pass electricity through the brain, so do we pass electricity through the air and wires. And it's not very far-fetched to think of it as a conscious being, and it's not very far-fetched to think of every atom in the universe as a conscious being itself. My personal belief of God is everything, like every single imaginable, or maybe the one thing that there is, according to quantum physics, that every electron might be the same one in the universe, but that one unifying thing all at the same time for an infinite would be the supreme consciousness. And, trying to think about what it would experience would just be ridiculous, so we're gonna not think about that, because it's a little bit too difficult for us, limited humans.
Can I ask you something?
Yeah?
As I quickly brush my teeth here. Toothpaste. Okay, yeah. Anyways. My question is, if we are all powering, or our cells are being powered by nucleus, correct? Technically.
Sure.
The atoms and protons go around what?
A nucleus.
Okay.
But we're not powered by that. We're powered by a lot of other random shit. Quantum physics.
I know that. Well, we can't really go into with the amount of time we have.
Yeah.
But if you think about our cells, okay, as multiple hundreds and thousands of cells and just protons and neutrons rotating, like a solar system would rotate its sun.
Yeah.
And it's weird to think that those same materials, those same atoms and like such, are the same material that makes up the mic we use, the same material that makes up the computer we use, the same material that makes up the house we use.
We are all stardust.
When we die, how are we any different than when a piece of wood dies and just goes back into the earth? Or how are we any different?
We're not any different. But the thing is, what we want to understand is the constant of consciousness. And if you look at humans on a fly of the wall perspective and just see them live their daily lives, you can kind of see it in a emotionally apathetic way and a nihilistic way. And, it's not exactly the most pleasant way to look at it, but for now we're just analyzing. you see them all doing the actions, but you might think that we're just like ants and we just look like robots. And maybe we're not experiencing it. We're just all, timed reactions. But we know personally, because we're experiencing this right now. We know that we know that consciousness is there. Or at least we think we know. So consciousness, because we can take it from our experience, is a constant throughout the universe. So if we die, that consciousness that is inside of us goes beyond our bodies. Our bodies are programmed in to live a certain way, perform functions, do its thing, and die. And we live life believing we have free will. I have personally I have a deterministic point of view. But that means everything is preordained. But we live life and then we die. But then this consciousness unit must travel forth and move on to something else. If we're deterministic, we can see that everything sort of has everything has already been played out. Time doesn't exist, and we just have to sort of experience everything all throughout the whatever you want to call time in this case.
Cool. It's kind of weird though, because I just find it so fascinating, for one, that life in general, life in general is a structure. Would you agree?
Yes.
Okay. Our bodies are a structure. Would you agree?
Yes, I agree with that.
Have you ever seen inside of your eyeball microscopically?
Like with a picture?
Within a picture, sure. Or within, maybe your own eye. But if you look inside of pictures, say of an eyeball, the inside of your eye actually looks like a forest where all the
I've
veins
seen that.
are,
I've seen that.
Shooting out, and then on the top is your pupil.
And it looks like trees and forests.
And
we're all
natural setting.
Gigantic pattern. If you've seen those photos where it shows the galaxy spiral and then the fossil spiral and the plant spiral and all that sort of stuff, you can just see that life is one big mathematical pattern, and we can understand a lot more if we recognize it like that. And that's the cool thing about being self-aware about that sort of thing, is you can understand why your environment reacts the way it does, and then figure out a way that you would want to react for it to be to make your life a more powerful force. And I don't know if power is the best word to use, but a more living force.
Fair enough, yeah. Well, I just think it's just the thought of existing life is phenomenal. Without one, you can't get the other. Correct? Without one life, you can't get a new life. Without two lives, you can't get a new life.
Yeah.
So without life, you can't bring forth life. Mm-hmm. But it's not as easy as that. You need two living
to make one.
Luckily,
we have a lot more than two.
Yeah. The as some people may say, the sea is full of bright and intelligent fish. And yeah. Anyways, I just find life in general very, very fascinating.
Life is the biggest trip you'll ever be on, so live it.
Yeah. One wave at a time,
Exactly. One wavelength at a time.
And I just think, because, everybody else is, another living form, just like you. So, on that same sense, we should all embrace people the same way we try to embrace ourselves on this life.
I very much agree with that, because it doesn't pay to be selfish in any way.
I think
you have a more enriched life if you give. And be tolerant of others and understand the way that you reciprocate throughout the world. And if you reciprocate in a good vibration, even though everyone else is a bad one, you'll still be that one guy who's a good vibration, and you'll feel good about it because you're a good vibration. Like, it's uplifting to feel good and be good. So don't feel bad, feel good.
Positive vibes bring positive times.
Guys gotta listen to the Sly and the Family Stone album Stand, because it's the most uplifting album you guys will hear. That's my musical suggestion of the day. Other than my band, of course.
Yeah. Or our show.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Come on now. But anyways, I really find life just as an adventure, you know? Like, if you are able to embrace every other life form you meet, in a sense that, hey man, if you want to approach me friendly, I'll approach you friendly. If you don't want to approach me friendly, that's totally up to you. Carry on. Have a good day.
Exactly. Treat everyone with respect.
Exactly. Honestly, I'll have respect for people to the day I die, and I want people to realize I love people. But I don't enjoy when you start, toying with the people I love and messing around with the people I care about, because then it's like you're hurting people. Enough said. And I just find, like, if you live a life that you can say, I will like you if you like me, and if you don't like me, then that's cool. Carry on. I think that'll help you to understand people, which in a big sense is...
And don't be narrow-minded about the word people. People means every person. A lot of people think people and then subject it to a certain category of people they would hang out with, and then exclude a lot of others. And it's something that I'm very aware of, and I've seen quite a bit. Don't exclude people from people. Everyone is people, and treat everyone like this.
Honestly, the biggest thing for me is I try and be humble about people. Like, one smile could change someone's life.
I agree with that.
One smile could save a life. Someone could be on the brink of life or death in their mind. And your one sincere smile, your one sincere, here, let me open the door for you, for gentlemen and women,
just can uplift their day.
Can totally make that one difference. Because I've been in that shoes. My brother was lying in a hospital bed, and for him to smile at me because I was just there for him after his serious accident, that was like, wow, dude, I don't know, there was no words to describe that feeling. It was just
amazing.
Yeah, it was just like, wow, one smile saved the whole situation. And if you have a drive just to live your life to the fullest potential, no matter what happens to you, you'll bring a positive vibe, which will go the extra mile for you and for everyone around you.
You can do anything you set your mind to. That is literal, but you have to be serious when you do set your mind to it. And live your life happily.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, man.
Well, what else do you got to say, buddy?
Well, I got a video to recommend for you guys to watch. It's very, very hardcore, very interesting. It's kind of where some of my ideas come from. It's called, you've probably watched it, but it's called Athene's Theory of Everything. And it's extremely enlightening, and it explains everything that I explained much better than I did, because I am not very good at talking on the spot, and thank you for bearing with me. But I hope you guys have a good night, and thanks for listening.
Well, on that note, have a good night, everyone. Like Jody said, thanks for listening. And I didn't know we were ending there, but sure.
Well, I don't know, I couldn't think of anything else to say.
Well, on that bombshell, have a good night, everyone.
I'm the king of bombshells, don't worry, guys.
Many more to come, hey?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, yeah, we're off. Take care, come here, don't be silly.
Give us a kiss.
Give us a kiss? What the hell? Alright, peace, guys.